Previously on the Skip and Josh Sports Show.
The Patriots just always cover, I think. I think they just always cover. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the spread comes out and Belichick shows the whole team in the locker room and he says, okay, so forget about who we're playing. Never mind winning the game. We have to cover the spread.
Imagine.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh Sports Show.
Skip.
Hey, Cup, how's it going?
It's going great. I have so much to talk about this week. I feel like I haven't spoken to you in a month.
It's all week you're telling me I have so much to talk about on the next episode. I have so much to talk about in the next episode. I'm like, what does he want me to talk about?
Well, I mean, maybe you'll want to talk about the same things, but like, for example, on Wednesday was a crazy day for sports for me and for you too, I think. We could have done a whole episode just on Wednesday.
I was out of town in New York, and I was happy that I had a dinner with my work colleagues on Wednesday night, so I actually couldn't really follow anything that was going on in real time, and I was happy about it because I think I would have went a little bit crazy.
Okay, well, we're going to recap it anyhow.
Okay. It's like that 30 for 30 on the day of the O.J. Simpson chase is the same day the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. And
yeah, but I think this past Wednesday was better than that day.
Okay.
Because I don't about OJ.
Oh.
So Wednesday was a crazy night. And then it spilled over into Thursday. But let's go in order first of all.
Sure, okay.
Okay. So Wednesday afternoon, actually, this is in the World Juniors. Russia played the United States in the semifinals.
Right. You texted me during the afternoon. I was in a meeting. I'm like, there's nothing I can do. You told me the game's going to shootout. I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it.
Right. I didn't see any of the game. It was during the day. I was at work, but we do have TVs at work, and I did watch the overtime at work and the shootout. So a few things I have to comment on. The United States ended up winning the game, obviously, because they went on to play in the finals in the gold medal game. But the fact that it went to a shootout, very exciting. Shootout is a terrible way to decide a game, but nonetheless, the last few minutes of regulation time and overtime were exciting, and the shootout was exciting. But here's what I wanted to comment on that game. A few things, in no particular order. The player for the United States who scored the winning goal, he scored 3 goals in the shootout. Troy Terry.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he scored in the first round of 5. He scored one of the goals, and then in the next round, after it goes to 1-1-1-1-1-1, you can just keep using the same guy over and over again, like Jonathan Taves was used over and over again, like 10 years ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
So they used Troy Terry twice, and he scored twice. It was shades of T.J. Oshie in the Olympics, if you recall, because that was against the Russians.
Yeah.
So very smart on their part that they used him because he scored and they won. And in fact, all 3 of his goals in the shootout were all between the legs. So just something to keep in mind because it's going to come up later in our conversation. Now, what I don't understand is the Russians. They used on their first shot in the first part, like in the 5-shot round, their first player was Denis Gurianov. I think I'm pronouncing that properly. If I'm not, I apologize. He scored on his first shot. Then they used him as the first shooter in the next round, and he scored again. So if I'm that coach, this guy's been out there twice. He scored twice. I'm just sending the same guy over and over and over again, just like the Americans are doing.
Right.
But no. They decide to send out some other guy, Alexander Polunin, who, again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. And he doesn't score and they lose. Now, I'm not saying they would have won if they kept sending out Gurianov, but the guy hadn't missed. So, like, why would you take him out?
Do you know if they asked the Russian coach about it?
You know what? I didn't get to see the post-game press conference, and I don't know if he was asked that.
I mean, I'm sure he had reasons. You know, maybe the guy's great in shootout normally. Maybe the other guy, I don't know. Maybe they wanted to give the goalie another look. I mean, I guess there's different strategies, but
whatever. I go with the hot hand.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know why they didn't use him. He also scored a goal Actually, sorry, I made a mistake. He scored 2 goals during the regular game. In the second period, he scored, and in the third period, he scored. So technically, he had already scored 4 goals that night or that afternoon. It was a day game.
Right.
So even more reason to use the guy. He was clearly hot. Anyhow, what bugged me about this game, I know this isn't the what bugs me segment. When you're watching a hockey game and they put the little bug up on top that shows you like X or a check mark if a team has scored.
Yeah.
So in the NHL, it's 3 shooters.
Yeah.
And I was watching this at work and the sound was off and I saw the bug. It had 3 boxes for each team with, check marks or X's. And so after the first 3 shooters, I thought it was done, first of all. And I wasn't the only one. One of the Russian players on the bench came off the bench because he thought it was also done. And he was about to congratulate his
goalie.
His goalie because he thought it was done. Because at the time, after 3 shooters, it was 1-0 Russia after 3 shooters for both teams. But in fact, it wasn't 3 shooters, it was 5.
So what happened on the broadcast? They put the wrong bug?
They put the wrong bug and they couldn't fix it. They couldn't put a bug that had 5 boxes. So
but
instead,
on the next night, they had the correct bug.
Yes, they fixed it by then. But TSN was too slow or didn't know about this or whatever. And so they had a bug that only had 3. So what did they do? Instead of putting up a bug that has 5, they put up another bug that had 4, 5, 6. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it had 4, 5, 6, which is completely wrong because it's only going to 6 if it's still tied after 5. And if it's going to 6,
the only bug they had was 3. It was in groups of 3.
Correct. So they just took the same bug they had and changed numbers 1, 2, 3 to 4, 5, 6.
That's embarrassing.
But it took them a while before they did it. And keep in mind, I'm watching this without any sound, so I don't know what's going on. I think the game's over. The poor kid on the Russian team, he also thought the game was over. Maybe he was watching the TSN feed. Who knows?
He didn't even see the bug.
No, he didn't.
He just didn't know the rule.
So this was so frustrating to me. Anyway, they finally fixed it. But even when they fixed it, it was still very confusing. And I didn't know which team had how many goals or anything, whatever. I ended up having to rewatch the game on demand like 2 days later because I wanted to see what happened because I didn't really quite understand it.
Right. Okay. That's cool.
So that was that game. Then, if that wasn't enough, later that night, sorry, this was Wednesday, correct? Yes.
Yeah, Wednesday.
So later that night was a very hectic night for me because Canada was playing in their semifinal game against Sweden.
Yeah.
And the Canadians were playing against Dallas, if I recall correctly.
True.
And also, Duke was playing. And Duke is so rarely on television here that I wanted to see the game. Now, lucky for me, Duke was the game that started first. It started at 7.
Wow. It was over after 15 minutes, so you
right. It was a blowout. And the Team Canada game started at 7:30, and then the Canadians game started at 8 because it was in Dallas. So there was a bit of a staggered start thing. So I was able to watch, because of intermissions and this and that. I was flipping around, but still it was crazy hectic. Now, yes, the Duke game was over after about 15 minutes. They destroyed Georgia Tech 110-57. It was over before even halftime.
It was the biggest, most lopsided victory in the ACC in the last 50 years.
You are correct. But the score was not even the story of the game. There were 2 stories of the game. Number 1, it was Coach K's last game before he goes into surgery, which I believe happened this past Friday, and I didn't even hear how it went, but I assume it went well.
Yeah.
And also, unbeknownst to me, the indefinite suspension handed to Grayson Allen was over.
Yeah.
So therefore, he only ended up missing 1 game. And a lot of people, myself included, thought that 1 game was not a severe enough suspension for him.
I mean, it was 1 game, but it was really like 2 weeks of no practice, no anything, So there. I mean, look, the league didn't punish him. His own team punished him. They can decide what they want to do.
You're right. And actually, in my opinion, the bigger punishment was that he was stripped of the captaincy.
Yeah, for sure.
So that might not show up in the stat sheet, but at least he got something. In any case, he played, Duke won, Coach K's last game. All the experts were given their 2 cents on should Grayson Allen come back? Should he not come back? Is it too soon? Whatever. Why did Coach K do that? Part of the reason people were saying was that he didn't want to leave that decision to Jeff Capel.
It's not just the decision to Jeff Capel. It's also not fair to hand over the team to Jeff Capel and not give him, his best player. So
fair enough. In any case, Grayson Allen's back.
Yep.
But let's stick with that same night because that's just the Duke game. Canada played Sweden. That game did not go into overtime, did not go to a shootout. Canada won the game. It wasn't really.
It wasn't close. I mean, I didn't see any of the game, but it
I
wasn't.
think the final score was 5-3 or something like that. But I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't really a nail biter or anything like that. And then we go to the Canadians game, and I believe that game I know went into overtime, and I think it was the fourth consecutive overtime game that the Canadians have played
It
or
was.
had played at that till that point.
Yeah.
And they were, I think, before that, 2-1 in overtime games on that stretch of three.
Yeah.
So they won that one in overtime to make them 3-1 in overtime in that stretch of 4 games. But the interesting things to me from that game, nothing to do with the game, of course. First of all, I noticed that every single player on every team in the league is now wearing a new patch on their jersey that says 100 years.
Oh, good. You were right. The centennial
So those were
centennial
only sewn
season.
On, yeah, those were only sewn on, I guess, January 1st.
Right. Okay.
My other comment, watching the game against Dallas, Dallas has new uniforms. Well, I guess they were new last year, but they're new to me. And the whole time I thought I was watching the Hartford Whalers because their current green does not look anything like the old Dallas green. It looks like the old Hartford green.
Oh,
So
well,
I-
that means they're nice uniforms.
I don't know. I prefer the old Dallas green, but anyhow. So the whole time I thought I was watching the Whalers. And the other two things that struck me, Philip Deneau, who's actually not a bad player. from
He's
what I've
good.
seen-
He's really
from what-
good.
Yeah, he's not a bad
He's
player.
not a first line center, but they're desperate.
Yeah. He's wearing number 24, and I could swear that's Chris Chelios' old number.
It is, among other people.
And someone else that played, I mean, it wasn't Dano's first game, but I haven't seen him play much. One player who did play his first game against Dallas was Bobby Farnham,
Yeah.
and he was wearing Stefan Richet's old number.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly have the same skills as Stefan Richer.
Not quite. And I'm sure he's not as good a softball player as Stefan Richer was.
No, probably not.
But anyway, those are the things that stuck out in my mind from that game.
Not that Brendan Gallagher is injured for 2 months.
Well, that too. Did that happen on Wednesday?
And it happened against Dallas, yeah, I think.
Right. Well, you shouldn't ever be in front of Shea Weber shot,
Yeah, I know.
but Shea Weber also needs to know how to keep his shot lower.
I'm worried about Gallagher's career.
Well, it's the same hand. Plus,
Yeah.
I mean, he was having a lousy season. This could end up being a blessing in disguise
Why?
because now he's going to get time to just get away from the rink,
Yeah.
heal his
But
hand.
what if he was having a bad season because he can't shoot properly because of his injury from last year?
Oh, well, I didn't consider that.
Because he's trying his butt off, right? You know how Gallagher plays. He only
But
knows how to
most of-
play one way. I know most of his
shots
goals are
not-
within
they're not
2
like,
feet.
He doesn't shoot like hard shots from the point. or
You're
anything.
right. You're right. But
So I don't
you
know.
still
I mean,
need to
but yeah,
handle
I
the
guess
puck.
once you break your hand, it's probably never the same again.
He said on the radio that he can't use his hand the same way as he could before, like in everyday life, cooking or doing certain things, whatever.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
But,
So okay,
But this only came out like when his hand got injured, so. I don't know. Like you said, I wish him the best, and I hope he comes back stronger. But God, the Canadians are like Michel Therrien gets so criticized so often, and usually like I'm the first one to criticize him. I never liked him, but God, I really like. It pains me to say like he deserves a lot of credit because injuries after injuries after injuries, and they just keep winning games, right? They just keep getting points. So, I mean, look at last night. I'm sure everybody thought that the Leafs were going to run all over the Canadians last night. And the Canadians came out firing and, took a win. So,
one thing I'm going to say, I know that Gallagher's injury was because of a shot from his own team.
yeah.
Last year, it was because he was blocking a shot from the opposing team.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you talk to any head coach in the NHL, any GM in the NHL, any analyst on TSN, they will all tell you that if you're out there and you have a chance to block a shot, you block the shot. But here's what I don't get. You have a goalie. Every team has a goalie whose job it is to block shots.
Yeah.
who is wearing equipment so that he can block shots. Not like any of the other players on the ice. They're not wearing as much equipment as he is. I don't understand why you've seen many injuries happen of players trying to block shots.
Guys get their ankles shattered sometimes.
Or worse, even their face.
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name on Philadelphia who stopped a shot with his face. I'm sure he didn't intend to do that. But that's your career.
Yeah.
So and the other thing that happens when you try to block a shot, let's say you only get part of it. So then it
makes it
deflects,
worse.
it changes directions. Right. If you're shooting from the point, most NHL goalies should have enough time to stop the shot.
Especially with Carey Price. You know what I was telling you the other day? Like, he stops everything. The only goals that he gets scored on are on weird deflections or shots that he can't see. That's the goals that get scored on him, and that's the goals that get scored on most like really good goalies. Like otherwise they stop everything, you know?
Right. I mean, obviously Shea Weber has a crazy hard shot, and there are other guys that have crazy hard shots, and you're not going to stop those all the time. But I don't agree with players blocking shots from the point. I don't agree with it.
It's all about the macho stuff. Finish your checks, play hard, never back down. They're all trying to prove themselves. It's part of the game, I guess.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show. They don't take your calls.
So we have to move on to Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. So
Thursday was not. What did you going to ask a question? Sorry.
I wasn't going to ask a question. I was going to tell you that my meetings in New York ended early, and I managed to get a flight home on Thursday afternoon. And I was thrilled. I was thrilled because now I was going to get to watch the gold medal game in the World Juniors.
Well, this is what I wanted to talk about. Thank you for the nice segue. Now, Thursday was not anywhere near as hectic because there was no Duke game. There was no Canadians game. There was just Canada versus the United States,
right?
Which, of course, is always a good rivalry. And this game was a great game, back and forth. Canada had a 2-0 lead. USA tied up at 2. Then Canada had a 4-2 lead. USA tied up at 4. So it goes into overtime. I mean, I'm assuming you watched the whole game. I shouldn't assume that, but I guess you did. I don't know.
I did, yes.
So it goes into overtime, and no one scores. And then it goes to the shootout. Again, not a good way to decide the game. And even if Canada had won, I'd say not a good way to decide the game.
It's terrible. It's a terrible way to decide a game, especially the championship.
So you
decide the championship of a tournament. You decide the championship of a hockey tournament by not playing hockey.
Well, you can say the same thing about the World Cup of Soccer.
Of course I could, and it's true.
Or the Euro. The thing is, in soccer, they could play for days and no one might score.
Yeah, that's true. Literally days.
So, yeah. So anyway, the good thing about this game is that TSN fixed their bug. Thank God.
Thank God.
So at least that. So what happens in this? So there was only one goal scored in the entire shootout.
Yeah.
It was obviously scored by the United States because they won. And again, it was Troy Terry, the same guy who scored 3 goals the night before. And what did Troy Terry do? He went between the legs. So here's my question.
I can tell you the answer. I don't know what your question is, but they interviewed him after the game, and he said he was not going to go 5-hole, and he couldn't help himself.
Okay, well, that's fine. He should go 5-hole because he went 5-hole 3 times the night before, and it worked.
Yeah.
And so if he didn't go 5-hole, he's an idiot. Now, my question is this. Does any of the staff on Team Canada, did any of them watch the game the night before? Did they not see that Troy Terry went 5-hole 3 times?
I'm sure they did, but it happened so heat of the moment.
No. You don't tell me that because all these guys, they all have video on all these other guys.
No, I'm not talking about heat of the moment. Like, they could have told Hart, the goalie, 20 times if Terry's coming in, watch the 5-hole. But as he's coming in, it's literally split seconds decisions, right? Happening. Fakes here, fakes there, moves the pucks here, and it's literally he just needs like a centimeter of space between the legs to get it through.
Well, then you cheat. You close the legs, you keep other stuff open because you do everything you can to not give him the 5-hole. That's my opinion. I'm not blaming Team Canada's goalie on the loss. I'm just saying it's interesting because the very next U.S. shooter, Jeremy Bracco, he also tried to go 5-hole and he was stopped.
Yeah.
Because I think the Team Canada goalie was cheating a little
It's
bit to make sure
very
that he didn't give up another goal between the
It's
legs.
so hard. I mean, there's so much pressure on the goalies and the shooters for shootouts, you know.
Nonetheless, a very exciting game. I'm glad it was an exciting game.
I think the better team won.
Well, they didn't lose a game the entire tournament.
Yeah, the better
They're,
team won.
they were the only team that didn't lose a game the entire tournament.
And I
So,
think they were actually the better team in that game.
well,
know?
it was a very evenly played
You
game.
know, it
was,
takes a
we saw that.
lot of character as a team to come back from the 2-goal deficits twice.
Yes, you're right. It does.
So,
And
and in the overtime, they carried the play.
by the way, that fourth goal they scored, the tying goal in the third period, it was a very nice deflection right off to the side of the net.
Super nice. Super
Yeah,
nice.
very nice.
Yeah.
So, in any case, and Brian Bellows' son Kiefer scored a goal in the game.
He has a
actually,
great
he scored.
shot.
Actually, he scored two.
They couldn't stop saying what a great shot he has. Good for the USA. It's always a great tournament. Are you ready to start the parliamentary hearings about how come Canada has only won one gold medal in the last 8 years?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, listen, they won silver. It's not like
I know. I'm just joking.
it's not the it's not
But
the
you
end
know
of the
there are
world.
some wackos out there that
Of course.
what's wrong with Canadian hockey? It's
Listen,
because all the teams are good.
exactly.
We
The
don't.
Americans are good.
Yeah.
The Swedes are good. The Russians are good. It's not like, maybe in the Olympics it's a little bit different, but at this level of hockey, there are four countries that any one of the four of them could have easily won the gold medal, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You're 100% right.
So,
And like I said on our last episodes, this wasn't a great version of Team Canada.
no, there was no superstar.
I mean, Shabbat kind of emerged as the superstar as the tournament went along, but I mean, he's still a defenseman. He wasn't the dynamic offensive player like they've had in the past.
Right, and they were missing their best defenseman,
Myers.
who got injured during the round robin and with a concussion. So that might have made a difference.
Might
But
have.
Shabbat did save the day a few times where the goalie was out of position and Shabbat made a few saves.
Yeah. Well, also he played like the whole game. So,
Yeah. So that was Thursday.
do you have more to say about Grayson Allen?
I
before
do.
we-
I'm getting to that.
Okay, good.
You know what? Let's get to it right now, because the listeners don't know, but we're recording on Sunday night,
Yes,
and Duke played yesterday afternoon,
against Boston College.
and there was another Grayson Allen incident yet again yesterday.
Now, I knew you were going to ask me about this. So literally minutes before we got on this call, I watched the play 20 times in a row to really see it.
I've also watched it 20 times.
And it's not intentional. It's nonsense. I mean, he's
I
getting
know.
screened. He comes off the screen and he loses his balance, and that's it. And if this was any other team, no one would even be talking about it. If it was any other guy on any other team, no one would be talking about it. So,
You're right.
unfortunately,
You're
he's going to be
absolutely right.
scrutinized the rest of his college career, and then even in the NBA, he's going to have to live with this. So, I mean, like the old saying goes, he made his bed, now he's got to lay in it, right? Like, this is his own doing, So, it wasn't a dirty play, and somehow he's still going to have to justify it, So,
I agree with you. I watched it also a bunch of times. I don't think it was intentional, but because it's him,
yeah.
the microscope is on him and will continue to be on him for the rest of his college career and into his NBA career, which I hope is a successful one for his sake. But it's just interesting. This is only his second game back, and
There's already something.
everyone's going to parse every little thing that
Wait
happens.
until they
now.
play Kentucky or Kansas in the tournament, and something happens. And, oh God, I can't wait for that.
In any case, Duke is in their last two games since Grayson Allen's back, they're 2-0.
Jefferson
That's-
got hurt, which is very concerning.
That is concerning.
Especially it's his same foot that forced him out of all last year. So, I mean, like I said before, they have a lot of depth, so they can withstand injuries. But Jefferson is a big blow. I mean, he's like the heart and soul, especially on defense, right?
How long did they say he's going to be out?
They don't know yet. It's still, they haven't said. They're supposed to run tests on his foot, and they're gonna see. It's like nothing's been decided yet.
Well, the game against Boston College was close. It was only an 11-point game.
Yeah. But they
mean,
were winning by 20 most of the game, and a few players admitted that they kind of screwed up because they took their foot off the pedal, so to speak,
mhm.
and let them get back in the game when they had no business. That game was long over. So.
Duke's next game's against Florida State, and they're ranked 12th. So,
but every game is tough in the ACC.
yeah, their
Every
next
game's
two
tough.
games, they play Louisville after that, who's ranked 9th. So the next two games are going to be tough.
Check out the Skip and Josh Sports Show on Twitter. You know that little app with the little blue Tweety bird? Yeah, you can follow them there at Skip and Josh.
The reason we're recording on Sunday night is because we wanted to wait until the 4 NFL playoff games were done.
Yeah,
I
watched football all weekend.
I figured we should talk
not
about
exactly.
football.
But I watched as much as I needed to of all the games all weekend because some of the games were a little out of hand at certain points, and so
I watched very little football, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I watched the fourth quarter of the Green Bay game. I watched the fourth quarter of the Seattle game.
yeah. Houston beat Oakland, which is, I know you picked Oakland, but I mean I chose Houston. It's not a surprise. I mean, the quarterback for Oakland looked exactly how he should have looked. He's a rookie quarterback, and as much as you were saying, well, they both teams don't have quarterbacks, right? But the difference is Osweiler is an NFL quarterback right now, and Oakland did not have an NFL quarterback.
That's true. Osweiler's played like
Yeah,
a season
you can't.
and a half.
It's difficult to win games like that. And Houston still has a pretty good defense,
Yeah.
so they did what they needed to do. Detroit, Seattle, we both picked it wrong. I mean, we both picked Detroit with the spread, which was 8 points, and like we talked about off air, Detroit was covering for 80% of that game. Detroit was covering.
Yeah, until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but God, Seattle, as much as it pains me to say, I want to stick a fork in my eye, but they're good. They're really good. Their defense is still good. Without Earl Thomas, their defense is still good. And Detroit didn't look like they had any clue on offense, like on how to move the ball.
No, and obviously, I think Matt Stafford's
His injury,
injury is more serious than we think it is.
They really showed the stats of before and after since he's been wearing that finger splint, and he doesn't throw as well. I mean, he already has the weirdest release, right? Matt Stafford has like 12 release points, right? He throws sidearm, overhand, underarm. The guy throws all kinds of different balls, but with that splint on his finger, I don't know. He can't be too comfortable back there.
It would have been interesting if Stafford didn't get injured 3 weeks ago, and if Carr didn't get injured 3 weeks ago, these games would have been completely different.
For sure, the Oakland-Houston game would have been completely different. First of all, if Carr wouldn't have got injured, Oakland probably wouldn't have been in this game. They would have probably won the division, right?
Correct, yes.
So, things really changed. Detroit, I don't even know if Stafford's healthy. The way Seattle's defense played yesterday, and the way their offensive line played. Their offensive line was so bad all year, they couldn't get any running game going, and all of a sudden yesterday...
But same thing, if he didn't get injured, Detroit might have won their division.
Yeah, that's true.
And they might not have been in this game either.
That's true, yeah.
So, any case,
Anyway,
we could say shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah, you don't know. So then Pittsburgh, I mean, honestly, I watched the first, not even to the end of the first quarter. Pittsburgh was up 14-0. I was like, okay, I turned it off and I started doing something else. And they kind of ran away with it. Miami tried to keep it close as good as they could, but
Matt Moore actually had a decent game.
He's not bad, that guy, and I give him a lot of credit because I don't know if you saw this massive hit that he took.
I didn't.
Oh God, it's going to be on every highlight for forever. He took such a shot, it was unbelievable, and he went off, and he came back one play later, and I was like, how could they do the concussion protocol that quickly? The guy was almost killed on the field.
Yeah, they couldn't have done it.
Maybe the doctor asked him, "You feel okay? How do you look? Whatever," and he's perfectly alert and fine. Then they have no reason to check anything, right? I get there's stuff that they can do in a few seconds, but you would think that, I don't know, it was a little quick for me, considering the severity of the hit. Pittsburgh looks really tough. If they can pull together their defense, they are tough because Roethlisberger, um, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. That's like the
Yeah,
biggest.
their offense is
That's
is their bread and
I
butter. Their
mean,
defense has not been good this
no,
season.
that's it. That's what I'm saying. If they can pull, if their defense can just play like well, not even great, just well. Their offense is so good that they're so dynamic. They can beat you in so many ways, right? Even if they shut down Roethlisberger, how are you going to shut down Bell? You can't do both, right? They're going to be tough. They're going to
And
be
you
really
didn't
tough.
even mention Antonio Brown.
Well, he tore them apart.
Yeah.
He they couldn't stop him. So we'll see. And then
And then the last game,
it was
the last
exciting.
game of the weekend, Green Bay, New York. By the way, I had the 2 Sunday games right. I had the 2 Saturday games wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Green Bay. I mean, I watched the whole game.
Actually, it was close at
No,
halftime.
the Giants. Look, the Giants have one of the best defenses in the league. They were holding Green Bay. The game was close, and then they threw up that crazy Hail Mary at the end of the half. And then next thing you know, all of a sudden it was like a 7-6 game and it was 14-6. So, I mean, their defense can only do so much, right? The Giants, because I didn't realize how bad their offense is. Like they showed the stats. They're like 26 rushing offense, 25th passing offense. Like they were not a good offense this year. And then to top it all off, everybody is dropping balls. Like Odell Beckham's dropping balls all left, right, and center. Among all the, not just to single them out, all the receivers were dropping passes. So, it was like a deadly combination. And then eventually, there's only so much you can do against Aaron Rodgers, right? They stop him, but then eventually he's going to get you, right?
Yeah. The Packers scare me. I mean,
He's
they
a
don't
joy
scare
to
me, but
watch. Honestly, he's so much fun to watch, Aaron Rodgers. He's in the pocket. He looks like he's just like a regular drop back passer. And then the Giants are all over him, the pass rush. It's coming from all different directions. And he moves around so well in the pocket. Not like scrambling to go for a run or not like rolling out. He just moves 2 steps to the left, 2 steps to the right, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. He just moves around enough in the pocket to buy himself time till he gets an open man.
I think there was a stat where from the time of the snap to the time he releases it, he holds onto the ball longer than any other quarterback.
Well, I mean, if you would have just told me who holds onto the ball longer than any quarterback, my first choice probably would have been Roethlisberger, and then it's him. Roethlisberger holds onto the ball like crazy because he doesn't care how hard he gets hit. He's as big as any player on the field, right? He's a linebacker
Yeah.
himself, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Similar to Cam Newton.
something like that. But Rodgers, I mean, the way he moves around in the pocket is just great. So, I mean, I think next week we're getting more down to the nitty gritty now. With the division champions now playing.
There's three good games next week.
Well, I mean, Atlanta, Seattle. I guess you're counting as a good game.
Yeah, I mean, Matt
No,
Ryan.
it is a
no,
good
it's not-
game.
Yeah,
It is a good game, but I mean, I don't like those teams, so I don't know if
No, it's not whether you like them or not. I mean, Atlanta's got crazy good offense.
Seattle's
Seattle
got
has
crazy good
defense.
defense.
But it's in Atlanta.
that usually defense wins in these
Usually,
situations,
yeah,
but
usually.
they have the home field, right? And
Yeah.
and of all the teams, Seattle is such a bad road team.
And weather won't be a factor. So Seattle likes to play in bad weather, but that's not going to be a factor.
Yeah. We'll see. This is everyone's hyping up Atlanta on a lot of the national sports talk shows. People are giving Atlanta a lot of props and pumping them up, and I don't know. Like I told you
I
many
mean, you
times,
can't.
and I told you when Mike was on with us from Atlanta. I've seen this before. The Falcons have been good before. They've had a great offense before. They've been in the playoffs. Somehow they always manage to blow it.
Yeah, I don't trust them,
No, that's exactly it. I don't trust them.
but I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean,
As a-
Houston, New England.
That-
What do you
that to
think?
me is-
The
that to me
early
is a
line
waste
is
of
out.
time.
The early line is out. New England's favored by 16.
Is it that high?
That's what I have right now. It could change, but that's like what the line was right when the game was set.
I'm surprised that's not the early game on Saturday. I'm surprised that's the late game on Saturday.
It's true because you'd figure they want to get it in prime time. I guess they have no choice.
No, you figure they don't want that one in prime time. I would
No. They want to. You're saying Seattle, Atlanta should be prime time.
Yeah, over Houston.
Yeah, I know, but I think the times are preset. And that it's not like the regular season where they could change them around.
Oh. In
So
any
I
case,
don't know. Would you think Belichick's going to show his team the spread and say we're favored by 16?
Yeah. They're going to cover. And you know what? Even if you hadn't told me what the spread was, I would have told you they're going to cover.
What if I told you they're favored by 28?
Houston's awful. The only reason Houston won this week is because they played
A
team
worse team. Yeah, they
that
played a
was
team with a
using
high school quarterback. Yeah.
right? Who's never played before, who's never
Yeah.
played an NFL game before, or never started an NFL game before. But New England's win that game. That game's a waste of time.
Sunday has the two really strong games. Pittsburgh, Kansas City. It's right now Kansas City's favored by 1.5.
You see, to me, both these games are pick'em games.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if both road teams win these games.
The spread on the Dallas game's not out, so I can't tell you what it is, but I mean, it's got to be 3 or under. I mean, if anything, Dallas is favored by just because they're home field.
Just because they're at home, right?
It makes a big difference because that home field in Green Bay with the weather and everything, it's
Sure.
a huge advantage for the Packers.
Sure.
Yeah.
And,
So
and home field for Dallas is good for
Pittsburgh,
huge for them.
Pittsburgh, Kansas City's going to be a war. It's two really strong teams, well-balanced teams. We'll see if Kansas City. I really like Kansas City's secondary, so I think they can. I think they can hold off Roethlisberger and the passing attack, but it's tough to stop the running game. You know, Pittsburgh, they come at you in so many ways, and Kansas City, they've been just finding ways to win. So, I guess I mean I still like Pittsburgh's chances there, to be honest. And
Yeah,
Dallas,
again,
Green Bay. I mean, look, do I think Dallas is better? Yes, but am I gonna be cheering for them? No, you know, don't like
I
them.
mean, you could next week, you could see 3 real teams winning next week.
You could see Seattle, Pittsburgh, and Green Bay all winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
you're
and
right.
I don't even think that would be like an upset.
No, they wouldn't be shocking.
If all the home teams are favored, we know New England is, but if the home
They're
teams
all
are
going to
all
be favored.
favored,
I'm sure Dallas is going to be favored.
then I'm taking all the road teams except for Houston.
Yeah, I think
I
would
can
do-
tell you right
I
now.
think I would do the same thing. Matthew pointed out to me that Dallas Green Bay met the last time they met in the playoffs was that famous Des Bryant catch no catch.
Oh, that's not that long ago.
No, it's like 2 years ago. So
You talked about it like about a month ago on our
yeah,
podcast.
I know because that was the catch no catch, right? So clearly, like for anybody watching it, an alien comes down from Mars and you say, "Did he catch it?" Of course, he caught it, but yet somehow it was no catch, and then all the Dallas fans are up in arms. Meanwhile, Dallas shouldn't even been in the game because they should have lost the week before against Detroit when the ref, for seemingly no reason, picked up a pass interference flag. Like, when have you ever seen a ref call pass interference and then they're like, "Oh no, sorry, no penalty"?
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't understand how no one talks about that to this day. To me, it was unbelievable. Like, I just don't get it. And then, the week after, I mean, that's like the week after, Dallas should have beat Green Bay, and they didn't. Green Bay moves on. And then week after that, Green Bay should have beat Seattle. Seattle came up with literally the most miraculous game in history. I don't even understand how they were able to come back. It was only because Green Bay completely botched a few plays, and Seattle, by the grace of God, got incredibly lucky. And then then it goes to the Super Bowl, and Seattle should have won, and then New England ends up winning because of a crazy interception.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah,
Crazy
so
stuff.
every team in that playoffs all along that should have won ended up losing. So
Now Dallas to me is a much better team now than they were that
of
year,
course.
where they lost to Green
of course,
Bay.
my
And
son
I
still
think-
has the theory that Tony Romo's somehow gonna lose the game for them.
Well, they might use him to hold for field goals and extra
Imagine.
points.
I don't think he
so
would.
so he could end up losing it for them.
Jesus, I would love it. It would be great if somehow Prescott got injured and Romo had to come in and then he throws an interception in the fourth quarter.
No, I don't like to see injuries. I want to see teams play with their full roster, their best players, and then
Yeah.
decide who the best team is. I don't root for injuries.
Well, no, I mean only saying it, to see if Romo could somehow get in the game.
A lot of people think Romo's a good quarterback, by the way.
Well, I mean,
And he's going to be a starting quarterback on a team next year. It won't
he's
be
the
Dallas.
all-time
but
he's the all-time leader in every category for the Dallas Cowboys.
really, even with Roger Staubach and all the good quarterbacks they've had, and Troy
100%,
Aikman,
more touchdowns, more yards, more everything. It's because
Really?
the era that he played in, right?
fair
In
enough.
the era that Staubach played in, if you threw for 3,000 yards, you were a god. They weren't throwing for 3,000 yards then, or barely.
Right.
And then the
was
era
much more
of
consistent.
Troy Aikman, no one was throwing for 4,000 yards, right? If you threw for
Mhm.
4,000 yards back in the 80s and 90s, that was incredible. It was a huge accomplishment. Now,
Mhm.
almost every quarterback in the league throws for 4,000 yards every year,
Right.
right? So, like, the era that Romo played in was like the pass happy era where all the stats are inflated, you know? So,
Mhm. That explains it.
yeah. I mean, you're going to see that on a lot of teams. You know, a lot of teams, the quarterbacks from the, let's say, the last 20 years are all pretty much the all-time leader, you know, in for their team.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
I heard that you're going to a friend's house to watch the national championship game tomorrow.
I am going, but really I'm going for the food, not so much for the game,
I know you
because
don't even follow like college football at all.
I don't follow college football at all. I just it's the games are way too long,
The
and
games are way too long. They're the same as the NFL games.
no, they're actually longer than NFL games if you look.
You think they have more extensive halftime shows?
It's not that. Like just they I don't know, they run more plays or there's more timeouts. I don't know what it is, but a game is like 4 hours. It's ridiculous. And also, tomorrow's going to be January 9th. The season ended a month
I know.
ago
I
or
really
more.
don't. I really.
And now they're playing their
They
championship
really
game.
need to play
It's
the
the dumbest
champion.
thing.
Yeah, you're right. They really need to play the championship game the day after all the other bowls, right?
Yeah, but even then, that would be January 1st. That's still like a month after the
But
season's over.
because they have this semifinal, final four bracket thing going on, they need time to play the games.
I understand, but the semifinal that was played on December 31st, I think,
Yeah,
could have been played December 20th or December 10th. Like,
yeah, yeah.
why did they have to wait till December 31st to play it?
I know they have it perfect. Other sports show their games on like Christmas. Why don't they play this? Why don't they play the semifinal like on Christmas Day and then the final on like New Year's Day, like a week apart, right? Or the 26th and the second, or like whatever permutation. But like it's ready and waiting for them. You know,
Part of the reason is they have like 37 other bowl games,
I
and they
know.
can't play those bowl games after the championship game, right? They have to play all those
Yeah.
stupid games first.
Yeah, I guess.
So that's part of the reason. But whatever. I'll tell you this: as little as I know about college football,
Yeah,
Alabama's not covering the spread. I don't even know what the spread is, but they're not covering it.
6.5.
They're not covering.
Well, look, Clemson is coming in with a major chip on their shoulder. Alabama won last year, and Clemson was pretty much the only team that was able to score on them last year. Like that, Clemson was the one offense that last year in that last game was able to actually put up points. And I mean, you don't know anything about like the team, but they have the same quarterback Clemson as they had last year. This guy Deshaun Watson, and he's fantastic. He is fantastic. I don't know if he's going to be in the NFL. If not, hopefully we'll see him in the CFL. But I mean, he's spectacular. So if anyone can shred this vaunted Alabama defense, I guess it's him.
Well,
And you know they're number one and number two, so like they should be playing, right? So
yeah. Listen, I have no problem with the teams that are participating.
I'm happy for Clemson's players because they made it back to the game. I mean, Alabama, I mean, it's been a foregone conclusion pretty much all year that they were going to be in the championship game. They've been the top team wire to wire, right? They weren't really tested. But Clemson, you know, they're not a powerhouse. So they really needed to put together a great season to get back to this game that they so desperately wanted to get back to. So I really hope they play the game of their lives.
Yeah, I'm tired of Nick Saban. He's won enough stuff as far as I'm concerned.
Oh my God, they fired the offensive coordinator.
They didn't fire him. He accepted a job with either Florida Atlantic
Florida
or Florida
Atlantic.
International. I don't know which. I get those two confused.
Florida Atlantic. But now Nick Saban said Kiffin's not going to be on the sideline tomorrow.
Kiffin's left. He's gone.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he accepted the job a month ago. So I don't know why he didn't leave a month
Yeah,
ago.
but
when he accepted the
usually
job.
like that stuff happens and they're like, okay, we've made an agreement, and you know he's still going to stick around to see his season end.
True, but what happened was I
Now-
don't know if you saw the semifinal game, if you want to call it a semifinal game, whatever.
Yeah.
When Alabama won, Saban and Kiffin were yelling at each other on the sidelines during the game, I think,
Yeah, they were.
and also, after Kiffin accepted the job, his new job, he did an interview with Sports Illustrated, I think, or ESPN the magazine, one of the two, I'm not sure. And in it, he said something, I don't know the exact words, but something like, "It's interesting working for Nick Saban," but it wasn't as polite as I just said it.
Right. Okay. So basically, I mean, it's pretty crazy, going into the national championship game, and they're going to be using not their normal offensive coordinator.
I know, and I think that's a mistake.
It's huge.
It could come back to bite them.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely going to cheer for Clemson.
So am I.
Like, I think a lot of the country is. I mean, I think unless you are an Alabama alumni or somehow an Alabama fan, I think, everybody else is cheering for Clemson.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. All right, so next episode we'll get the full recap about your championship game party.
I'll be talking more about the food than the game.
Good, perfect.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is back.
Well, I got nothing else really.
Nothing else?
No, I think that was a packed episode.
Just reminding everybody to like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and check out our website, skipandjosh.com. You got all kinds of good stuff there. And we'll speak to you next week.
Yes, and we will be having a guest on in the near future, another guest, a new guest.
I can't wait. That's going to be amazing.
Just teasing the audience a little bit.
What city? Can you tease them about what city?
No, that's too much already. I've given.
Okay, good. All right, speak to you later.
Okay, bye.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.